Story 1. The Mirror Route. The GPS showed I'd passed the same abandoned gas station 4 times in 17 minutes, but I'd been driving straight on I-40 without turning once. My hands were welded to the steering wheel, knuckles bone white, watching the odometer climb while the mile markers counted backward. Mile 847, mile 846, mile 845. I was moving forward, burning diesel, but the world was rewinding around me. My name is Patricia Sullivan, 42 years old, 20 years hauling freight across the continental United States. I'd driven through blizzards in Montana, dust storms in Arizona, floods in Louisiana. Never missed a delivery. Never had an accident. The kind of driver dispatch could set their watch by. That reputation died on March 14, 2023, somewhere between Amarillo and Oklahoma City, on a stretch of highway that shouldn't exist. The load was simple: 40,000 pounds of canned goods from a distribution center in Albuquerque to a warehouse in Tulsa. I'd run this route 24 times. Left at 6 p.m., planning to make it by 4 a.m. with a fuel stop and 30-minute power nap. Standard run. The sunset in my mirrors was the color of infected flesh. But I'd seen strange sunsets before. Didn't mean anything. Weather does what it wants out here. The first wrongness came at mile marker 850, right where the gas station should have been. Big Earl's travel stop, 24 hours, best coffee on this stretch. Except it wasn't there. Just empty prairie and a faded billboard advertising a place that didn't exist. I blinked hard, checked my mirrors. Fatigue could make you see things. But I wasn't tired. I'd only been driving 2 hours. Then I saw it in my passenger mirror. Big Earl's, sitting exactly where it should be, but behind me. I'd just passed it, except I hadn't passed anything. The road had been empty for 10 miles. I checked the GPS. The blue dot showing my truck was sitting stationary at mile 850. But I was moving. I could feel the engine's vibration, hear the tires on asphalt, see the white lines disappearing under my hood. 65 miles per hour according to the speedometer. 0 according to the GPS. Equipment malfunction, I said out loud, because hearing my own voice helped. 18-wheelers are lonely places. You talk to yourself or go crazy. GPS is fried, that's all. Mile marker 849 appeared in my headlights. Then 848, counting down when they should be counting up. I was heading east. Mile markers increase eastbound. This was basic navigation, the kind of thing you learn your first week on the road. I grabbed my phone. No signal. Not unusual in rural areas, but I'd had 3 bars 5 minutes ago. I tried the CB radio, spinning through channels. Nothing but static except on channel 19, where I heard my own voice calling for help. The transmission delayed by exactly 4 seconds. I released the mic. 4 seconds later, the CB went silent. The abandoned gas station appeared again, this time on my right. The year, same building, same faded Texaco sign hanging at that identical crooked angle. Same rust patterns on the pump islands. I'd memorized it during the previous 3 passings. The third window from the left had a crack shaped like a lightning bolt. The crack was there now, exact same position. I pushed harder on the accelerator, 70 miles per hour, 75. The engine roared, transmission straining. Mile markers kept counting backward, 847, 846, 845, the gas station's headlights in my mirror. Then ahead of me. Then in my mirror again. My logbook was on the passenger seat. I grabbed it, hands shaking, and wrote, 8:47 p.m. mile marker 8:45, past same location 5 times. My handwriting looked wrong, letters slanting backward. I blinked, and it was normal. Blinked again, and it was backward. The ink seemed to crawl across the page. That's when I noticed the other trucks. They appeared in my mirrors first, as if materializing from the darkness. 18-wheelers, all of them spaced exactly 1 mile apart. I counted 7 before they disappeared into the night behind me, all heading the same direction, all passing the same mile markers. When I checked my driver's mirror again, they were closer, much closer, gaining on me even though my speedometer showed 80 miles per hour. The lead truck pulled alongside me, a Peterbilt, older model, rust-eaten and filthy. The driver's window was dark, then a flash of lightning. The sky had been clear, illuminated the cab. The driver was me. Same face, same yellow jacket, same scar on my left cheek from a childhood dog bite. She looked at me and smiled, and her teeth were black, rotting from the gums. I screamed and jerked the wheel. The truck swerved, tires squealing, trailer fishtailing. The Peterbilt vanished. Just gone, like it had never been there. But when I checked the mirror again, all 7 trucks were still following, and now I could see into their cabs. Every driver had my face, every single one. Different expressions, screaming, laughing, crying, blank-eyed and dead, but my face on all of them. Mile marker 840, the gas station again. But this time the lights were on inside, fluorescent and harsh. I could see someone moving behind the counter. As I passed, they looked up. My face again, but ancient, skin hanging in loose folds, eyes milky with cataracts. I was hyperventilating now, breath fogging the windshield. My hands felt numb on the wheel. The temperature gauge was rising even though the engine sounded fine. The heater was blasting Arctic air. The radio cycled through stations on its own, each one playing the same song, White Rabbit by Jefferson Airplane. But the lyrics were backward, the vocals distorted and wrong. The road ahead began to shimmer. Not heat shimmer, something else. The asphalt was moving, rippling like water, and I realized I could see reflections in it. Not reflections of my truck or the sky. Reflections of other roads, other trucks, other versions of this. Moments stacked on top of each other like layers of glass. In one reflection, my truck was on fire. In another, it was upside down, wheels spinning. In a third, it was pristine and new, not the 10-year-old Freightliner I actually drove. I watched myself drive through all of them simultaneously, every possible version of this trip happening at once. Mile marker 835. I'd been driving for 47 minutes and traveled negative 15 miles. The other trucks were beside me now, 7 of them in a perfect line, boxing me in. Their drivers were all screaming silently, mouths open wide enough to dislocate jaws. One truck was covered in blood dripping from the trailer, painting the road behind it. Another was transparent, see-through like glass, and inside I could see infinite versions of myself nested like Russian dolls, each one smaller and more distorted. I tried to slow down, but the brakes didn't respond. The pedal went to the floor with no resistance. I tried the Jake brake. Nothing. The engine wouldn't shift down. I was locked at 83 miles per hour, surrounded by ghost trucks traveling backward through space while time did something I didn't have words for. The gas station appeared ahead, but wrong. It was growing, expanding, the building stretching upward and outward like it was inflating. The doors were open, and inside I could see corridors. Impossible corridors extending into darkness that should have been prairie. The fluorescent lights flickered in sequence, creating the illusion of movement, beckoning me inside. I yanked the wheel hard right, trying to drive off the road, into the prairie, anywhere but forward. The truck didn't turn. The wheel spun uselessly in my hands, disconnected from the steering mechanism. I was a passenger now, watching my own hands grip a wheel that controlled nothing. Mile marker 830, then 825. The markers were accelerating, appearing faster, the countdown speeding up. 820, 815, 810, the other trucks began to merge with mine, their physical forms passing through my trailer like ghosts, and each time one passed through I felt it, a sensation like ice water in my veins, like my organs were being displaced, rearranged. My reflection in the side mirror was changing, aging rapidly, skin sagging, hair graying, then white, then falling out. The road ended, not gradually, just stopped. One moment there was asphalt ahead, the next there was nothing. Absolute blackness, not even stars. The absence of everything. My truck drove into it without slowing, and the darkness swallowed my headlights, swallowed the hood, swallowed everything. I felt myself coming apart, not violently, gently, peacefully, like ice melting. My hands on the wheel were becoming transparent. I could see through them to the dashboard, which was itself fading, becoming translucent. The whole truck was dissolving, molecule by molecule, and I was dissolving with it. The last thing I saw before everything went black was the mile marker, 800. The same marker where I'd entered I-40 from the on-ramp 6 hours earlier. The beginning of my route. I woke up at a rest stop outside Amarillo, slumped over the steering wheel, dawn light bleeding through the windshield. The clock showed 6:47 a.m. According to my logbook, I'd been parked here since 11 p.m. No memory of stopping. No memory of anything after leaving Albuquerque except the loop, the markers, the other trucks. But when I checked my fuel gauge, I'd burned 230 miles worth of diesel. The odometer had increased by exactly 0 miles. And in my passenger seat was a Texaco receipt from Big Earl's Travel Stop, a station that closed in 1987, dated March 14, 2023, time-stamped at 8:47 p.m., for a purchase I never made. I still drive, still make my deliveries. But I avoid I-40 between Amarillo and Oklahoma City. Dispatch thinks I'm being superstitious. They don't know that sometimes, late at night, on other highways, I see her in my mirrors. The old version of me from the gas station, getting closer every time. And the mile markers, no matter which direction I'm driving, sometimes count backward for just a moment before correcting themselves. The loop is still there. I know it is. Waiting at mile marker 850, where the road bends in on itself like a Mobius strip and time forgets which direction it's supposed to flow. And somewhere in that loop, 7 trucks are still driving, 7 versions of me still trapped, passing the same gas station forever, counting down to 0. I keep the Texaco receipt in my wallet. Sometimes the date changes. Sometimes it's from 1987, sometimes it's from next year, sometimes it's dated for a day that hasn't happened yet, and those are the nights I don't sleep, wondering if I'm driving toward it or away from it, if I ever really left the loop, or if this highway, this life, this moment is just another reflection in the road, another layer of glass stacked on top of the others. The mile markers count up now, usually, but I check my mirrors constantly, and I never ever stop at mile marker 850. Story 2. The breathing cargo. The reefer unit was set to 38 degrees Fahrenheit, same as always, but the temperature gauge kept climbing and the cargo was breathing. Not the mechanical rhythm of refrigeration compressors. I knew that sound intimately, had been hauling cold freight for 16 years. This was biological. Slow inhalations, long exhalations, the entire 43-foot trailer expanding and contracting like a lung. Robert Hayes, 51 years old, based out of Minneapolis. I specialized in pharmaceutical transport, mostly vaccines and medical samples requiring precise temperature control. High-value loads, strict protocols, excellent pay. I'd never lost a shipment, never had a temperature deviation, never broken the cardinal rule, never opened the trailer between pickup and delivery. What was in the sealed boxes wasn't my business. Climate control was. The load came from a research facility outside Portland, Maine. A concrete bunker barely marked, surrounded by double-fenced perimeter, security that made military bases look casual. The shipping manifest listed the cargo as biological samples with a delivery address in Atlanta, Georgia. 47 sealed containers, each marked with biohazard symbols and a reference number. Total weight, 38,000 pounds, total value classified. The pickup supervisor made me sign 7 different liability waivers before he'd release the load. Keep it cold, he said, standing in the loading bay, watching me through the window of the trailer. His eyes were wrong, too wide, pupils too dilated. 38 degrees exactly, not 37, not 39, 38. If the temperature deviates more than half a degree, call this number immediately. He handed me a card with a phone number and nothing else. No name, no company, just 10 digits embossed in silver on black cardstock. What happens if it gets warm? I asked. He didn't answer, just closed the trailer doors and sealed them with a numbered lock. The metal doors were cold enough to frost my breath, even though it was May and 70 degrees outside. I felt it start 2 hours into the drive, somewhere on I-95 south of Augusta. A vibration through the cab, subtle at first, like driving over rumble strips. But the road was smooth. I checked my mirrors. Nothing wrong with the tires. The vibration continued, steady and rhythmic. 1 second on, 3 seconds off, 1 second on, 3 seconds off. A heartbeat. I turned up the radio, tried to drown it out with classic rock, but I could feel it through the seat, through the steering wheel, through my bones. The entire truck was pulsing in time with something behind me. The reefer unit display showed 38 degrees, perfect. But the compressor was running constantly, straining, fans at maximum speed. That wasn't normal. At 38 degrees in mild weather, the unit should cycle on and off. This sounded like it was fighting something, like the trailer was trying to heat itself from the inside. At the Massachusetts-Connecticut border, the breathing started. I heard it through the sleeper cab wall, a wet, rasping sound like air moving through damaged lungs. The exhalation was long, at least 8 seconds, followed by a shorter inhalation. The trailer walls flexed with each breath. I watched in my mirror as the aluminum sides bowed outward, then pulled inward, the entire structure warping. I pulled into a rest stop, hands shaking. The sun was setting, painting everything orange and red. Other trucks were parked in neat rows, drivers sleeping or eating. Normal people doing normal work. I sat in my cab, engine idling, listening to the cargo breathe. The temperature was still 38 degrees. The seal on the doors was intact. According to every metric I had, everything was fine, but the breathing was getting louder and I could smell something now. A sweet organic smell seeping through the refrigeration vents, like flowers rotting in a closed room. I called the number on the card. It rang once, then a voice answered. No greeting, no identification, just current temperature. 38 degrees, I said. But something's wrong. The cargo is... Temperature is acceptable. Continue to delivery. It's breathing. The whole goddamn trailer is breathing. Silence on the line, long enough that I thought the connection had dropped. Then, are the seals intact? Yes, but... Do not open the trailer. Do not deviate from the route. Do not stop except for fuel. Deliver to the Atlanta facility by 6 a.m. tomorrow. Failure to comply will result in immediate termination of contract and criminal prosecution. Criminal prosecution for what? The line went dead. I sat there for 20 minutes, watching the sun disappear, watching the trailer expand and contract in my mirrors. Other truckers walked past, heading to the building, not noticing anything wrong. How could they not hear it? The breathing was loud enough now that it should have been echoing across the parking lot. A state trooper pulled in, parked 3 spaces away. I watched him in my mirror, waiting for him to notice, to investigate. He got out, stretched, glanced at my truck with its unmarked white trailer, then walked inside. Didn't react at all. I started driving again because I didn't know what else to do. The alternative was opening the trailer, breaking the seal, looking inside, and some animal part of my brain understood that opening those doors would be very, very bad. Connecticut blurred into New York, into Pennsylvania. The breathing got worse. The exhalations were lasting 12 seconds now, the inhalations sharp and quick, almost gasping. The smell was stronger, seeping into the cab even with the vents closed. sweet and rotten, and underneath it something chemical like formaldehyde and copper. The reefer unit was screaming, compressor rattling, but the temperature display still showed 38 degrees. I didn't believe it anymore. I could feel heat radiating through the sleeper cab wall. The metal was warm to the touch, getting warmer even though the refrigeration unit was running at maximum capacity. Somewhere in Pennsylvania, the containers started moving. I heard them sliding across the trailer floor, heavy scraping sounds, the squeal of metal on metal. The load wasn't secured properly. Impossible. I'd watched them strap everything down with enough chains to hold a tank. But something was moving back there, shifting position, rearranging itself. The truck pulled to the left. Not wind, not road crown. The weight distribution was changing. I could feel it in the steering, the way the trailer was dragging, asymmetrical. 47 containers, each one supposedly identical. But now they were migrating, congregating on one side. I stopped at a fuel station outside Harrisburg. Had to. The old tank was at a quarter. I parked away from the pumps, away from the lights. The trailer was definitely warped now, the sides bulging outward in places, metal stressed beyond its limits. The breathing had changed pitch, deeper and wetter, and I could hear multiple sources now. Not one thing breathing. Many things, their rhythms slightly out of sync, creating a horrible harmony. While the diesel pumped, I walked around the trailer. The doors were still sealed. The lock was intact, number matching my paperwork. But the metal was hot. Touching it burned my hand, left a red mark across my palm. The reefer unit display showed 38 degrees. A lie. Impossible. Something hit the inside of the trailer. A heavy impact like a fist or a head against the wall right next to where I was standing. The metal dented outward. Then another impact, higher up. Then another. Multiple somethings throwing themselves against the walls, beating against their container. I ran back to the cab, slammed the door, locked it. The impacts continued, a drumbeat of flesh on metal, and the breathing was ragged now, desperate. The whole truck was rocking on its suspension. A family pulled up next to me. Mom, Dad, 2 kids in the back seat. They got out to use the restroom, laughing about something. The kids ran ahead. The parents followed. They walked right past my truck without looking, without reacting to the sounds, to the movement. I was alone with this. Whatever was happening, I was the only one who could perceive it. The phone rang, the number from the card, calling me. I answered. You stopped. The same voice, flat and emotionless. I needed fuel. Temperature? I looked at the display, still 38 degrees. 38. Time to delivery? 8 hours if I don't hit traffic. The cargo is maturing ahead of schedule. This is acceptable. Do not stop again. Do not open the trailer. When you reach the Atlanta facility, park in Bay 7 and exit the vehicle immediately. Do not remain in the cab. Someone will meet you. What the hell is in there? Biological samples. Your manifest is accurate. Biological samples don't breathe, don't move, don't... They do if they're alive. The line went dead again. I drove through the night, the breathing synchronizing now, dozens of sources finding the same rhythm, the same pitch. The trailer was a choir of wet lungs, and the sound was burrowing into my brain, making thought difficult. I kept the radio off because music made it worse, made the breathing sound almost melodic, like a song in a language I didn't want to understand. Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina. The sun rose somewhere behind clouds, gray light filtering through the windshield. I'd been driving for 19 hours straight, violating every safety regulation, but stopping seemed worse than continuing. The temperature gauge hit 39 degrees for the first time outside Raleigh. Immediately, the breathing stopped. Complete silence. The sudden absence was worse than the sound. I waited for the phone to ring, for instructions, for threats. Nothing. Just highway noise and my own ragged breathing. Then the screaming started. Not human screams. Something else. High-pitched and alien, dozens of voices shrieking in harmony. The trailer walls began to buckle, metal tearing, rivets popping. I watched in my mirror as the side panels split, seams opening, white vapor pouring out. Not steam. Something thicker, something alive, writhing in the air like smoke with purpose. The temperature gauge climbed. 40 degrees, 42, 45. The reefer unit had given up, compressor silent, and I could feel the heat now. Waves of it washing through the cab, hot enough to make my skin prickle. Whatever was in those containers was waking up, and warm was what it wanted. I made it to Atlanta at 5:47 a.m., 13 minutes ahead of schedule. The facility was another unmarked building, industrial area, no other businesses nearby. The gate was open. I pulled in, found Bay 7, and parked exactly as instructed. The trailer was barely holding together. The walls were split in a dozen places, that white vapor leaking from every seam. The doors were bowed outward, the lock still somehow intact. The breathing had stopped again, replaced by wet, sliding sounds. Movement, lots of it. I grabbed my paperwork and ran. Didn't look back, didn't wait for payment. Just ran across the parking lot to the street, kept running until my lungs burned and my legs gave out. I never went back for my truck, never called the company, the police never contacted me. It was like the whole delivery never happened, except for the burn scar on my hand from touching the trailer and the nightmares that come every time I close my eyes. Sometimes I dream I'm back in that cab, driving through the night, listening to the cargo breathe. And in the dreams, when I look in my mirror, the trailer doors are open and I can see what was in those containers. I can see what matured. But when I wake up, I can never quite remember what I saw. Just the feeling of it, the wrongness, and the certainty that somewhere in some facility I'll never find, 47 containers are empty now. And whatever was inside is breathing on its own, growing, spreading, becoming something this world wasn't designed to hold. The burn on my hand throbs when it rains, and sometimes late at night I can still smell that sweet rotten flower smell seeping through walls that shouldn't be permeable, coming from a trailer I'm no longer driving, but that somehow, impossibly, is still breathing somewhere behind me. Story 3. The passenger seat. My passenger was dead, had been dead for 43 miles, and she wouldn't stop talking. Her voice came from the empty seat to my right. Casual conversation about the weather, about her daughter's wedding next month, about the book she was reading. I could see her in my peripheral vision, just shapes and shadows, but when I turned to look directly, there was nothing there but cracked vinyl and old coffee stains. Marcus Chen, 34 years old. I'd been running regional routes out of Phoenix for 8 years, mostly Arizona to California, occasional runs to Vegas. Good money, predictable schedule, home every weekend. I didn't believe in ghosts, didn't believe in much except diesel prices and delivery deadlines. That changed on Highway 93, the lonely stretch between Kingman and Las Vegas, where the desert goes on forever and the night is absolute. She appeared at a rest stop outside Wickiup. 2:47 a.m., middle of nowhere. Just bathrooms and vending machines and the kind of darkness that makes you feel like the last person on Earth. I was taking my mandatory break, coffee and a stale sandwich, when she knocked on my passenger door. She was maybe 60, gray hair pulled back, wearing a purple windbreaker and white sneakers. Normal. Safe. The kind of grandmother who bakes cookies and remembers birthdays. But her eyes were wrong. Too bright. Too focused. Like she was looking through me at something behind my head. "Heading to Las Vegas?" she asked through the closed window. I should have said no. Should have driven away, but she looked harmless and I was lonely, and the desert night makes you do stupid things just to have another human voice nearby. "Yeah," I said, unlocking the door, "but I can't take passengers. Company policy, insurance liability." I understand, she said, climbing in anyway. I won't tell if you don't. Her name was Helen. She'd been visiting her sister in Kingman, was heading home to Henderson. Her car had broken down 20 miles back. Phone was dead. She'd walked to the rest stop hoping to find help. Standard stranded traveler story. I'd heard variations 100 times. We talked for the first 15 miles, normal conversation. She told me about her daughter Emily, who was getting married in June, about her late husband Frank, who'd been a mechanic, about her garden and her book club and her neighbor's annoying dog. I told her about my roots, about my apartment in Phoenix, about nothing important. Words to fill the silence. At mile marker 1 and 12, she stopped mid-sentence. Just stopped. Complete silence. I glanced over and she was staring straight ahead, mouth slightly open, hands folded in her lap. Not blinking. I could see the highway lights reflected in her eyes, sliding past like she was watching a movie. "Helen?" I said. No response. She sat there, frozen, for maybe 30 seconds. Then she blinked and continued her sentence exactly where she'd left off, like the pause had never happened. "And Emily chose lavender for the bridesmaids' dresses, which I think is lovely, don't you?" "Yeah," I said, hands tightening on the wheel. "Lovely." It happened again at mile marker 98, mid-word this time. She was saying beautiful and got to butte, before freezing, mouth locked in that half-formed syllable. 10 seconds of absolute stillness, then Eiffel ceremony planned, June 12th. My skin was crawling now. I checked my mirrors, thinking maybe I should pull over, let her out, call for help. But the highway was empty. No cars ahead or behind, no lights except my own cutting through the darkness. Just desert and Joshua trees and the distant mountains like broken teeth against the stars. "Helen, are you okay? Do you need me to call someone?" She turned to look at me and her smile was too wide, stretched too far. "I'm perfect, never better. Thank you for picking me up, Marcus." I hadn't told her my name. "How did you—" "Your license," she said, pointing at my commercial driver's license hanging from the sun visor. But it was facing away from her. She couldn't have read it. And even if she could, it only showed my first name, not my last. "Right," I said. "Sure." At mile marker 87, she disappeared. Not gradually. Didn't fade. One moment she was there telling me about Frank's vintage car collection. The next moment the seat was empty. I actually swerved, shocked, checking the passenger seat, the sleeper cab, anywhere she could have gone. But the doors were closed, the windows up. She'd just vanished. I pulled onto the shoulder, hazards on, heart hammering. Searched the whole truck, under the seats, in the storage compartments, the sleeper berth. Nothing. No trace she'd ever been there. I stood on the roadside, hands shaking, trying to process what I'd seen. Hallucination? Carbon monoxide poisoning? I checked the exhaust system, the cab ventilation, everything normal. The night air was cold and clean, stars brilliant overhead. I got back in the truck and drove. What else could I do? But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong, that I'd violated some rule I didn't know existed. At mile marker 76, Helen was back in the passenger seat. She didn't reappear gradually. Wasn't there 1 second? Was there the next, sitting in the exact same position, hands folded, staring ahead? She picked up her conversation mid-sentence, continuing a story she'd been telling before she vanished. "And the cake will be 3 tiers with buttercream frosting," I screamed. Couldn't help it. The sound tore out of my throat, raw and animal. I jerked the wheel, nearly put the truck into the guardrail. Helen didn't react, didn't flinch, just kept talking. "Emily wanted fondant, but I convinced her buttercream tastes better. Don't you agree, Marcus?" "You disappeared," I said, voice shaking. "You were gone. How are you?" "June 12th, she continued, ignoring me completely. "The ceremony starts at 4 o'clock. I'm wearing blue. Mother of the bride should wear blue, don't you think?" I tried to reach for her, to touch her shoulder, to confirm she was physical. My hand passed through her like smoke, no resistance, no temperature, nothing. But I could still see her, solid and real, occupying space. "What are you?" I whispered. She turned to me and her eyes were black. Completely black. No whites, no iris, just void. "A passenger," she said, and smiled with too many teeth. At mile marker 64, she froze again, this time for a full minute. I counted the seconds, watching her in my peripheral vision, afraid to look directly. When she started talking again, her voice was different, deeper. The accent had changed, less Arizona and more something else, somewhere colder. "Frank died in March," she said. "Lung cancer, it was very fast. 3 weeks from diagnosis to funeral." "You said he was a mechanic," I managed. "He was a teacher, high school chemistry, 37 years. That's not what you said before." She looked at me with those black eyes and her smile inverted, curving down into an expression of infinite sadness. "Isn't it? I forget sometimes. The details get confused." Mile marker 53. She vanished again, reappeared at mile marker 41, but wrong. Her purple windbreaker was blue now. Her gray hair was brown. Her age had shifted, younger, maybe 40 instead of 60. But her voice was the same, and she continued talking about Emily's wedding like nothing had changed. "The flowers will be white roses. Emily loves roses, always has since she was a little girl." "Who are you really?" I asked. "Helen Morrison, 4732 Desert Bloom Lane, Henderson, Nevada. Born July 14, 1963, died March 3, 2019. The cold that went through me was absolute. "You're dead." "Yes," she said pleasantly. "Car accident. Right here, actually, mile marker 38. Head-on collision with a semi-truck. Driver fell asleep at the wheel. I was killed instantly." We were approaching mile marker 38. I could see it in my headlights, white and reflective. "That was 4 years ago," she said. "Emily's wedding was beautiful. I didn't get to see it, but she told me all about it when she visited my grave. The cake was perfect." The mile marker passed. Helen froze mid-sentence, stayed frozen. Her image began to flicker, like a bad TV signal. I could see through her to the seat, to the door panel. She was fading, losing cohesion. "Please," she said, voice distorted, multiple octaves at once. "Please don't forget me." Then she was gone, completely gone. The passenger seat was empty, had always been empty, but there was something on the vinyl, a wet spot, dark and spreading. I touched it. My fingers came away red. Blood. Fresh blood, still warm, pooling on the seat from no source. I made it to Las Vegas, delivered my load, never mentioned Helen to anyone. Didn't file a report, didn't call the police. Who would believe it? I barely believed it myself, but I looked her up. Helen Morrison, found her obituary online. Died March 3, 2019, Highway 93, mile marker 38. Survived by daughter Emily and son-in-law David. There was a photo, same woman, same purple windbreaker, but younger, happier, living. Emily's wedding had been June 12, 2019, 3 months after Helen died. The obituary mentioned it, how Helen had been looking forward to it, how Emily wore her mother's pearls during the ceremony. "I don't run that route anymore. Requested transfer to California-only hauls, took a pay cut, didn't explain why. But sometimes, late at night on other highways, I see her in my peripheral vision. Helen in her purple windbreaker, sitting in my passenger seat, telling me about a wedding she never got to attend. About a daughter who had to walk down the aisle alone. She's not the only one. There are others now. Different passengers, different stories, all of them dead, all of them tied to specific mile markers where their lives ended. They appear and disappear, freeze and flicker, tell me about futures they never had. And the worst part, the part that keeps me awake, that makes me check the passenger seat obsessively even when it's empty. is that sometimes I see myself there, sitting where they sit, frozen mid-sentence, telling someone else about the delivery I never completed, the home I never reached. I check my rearview mirror constantly now, looking for the accident I haven't had yet, the mile marker where I'll join them, where I'll become another passenger in someone else's truck, trapped in a loop of words and memories, unable to stop talking about a future that will never arrive. The passenger seat is empty, for now, but I can feel it watching me, waiting. And every mile marker I pass is a countdown to the one where I'll freeze mid-sentence, where someone else will be driving, where I'll be the ghost telling stories about a life that ended while I was still trying to live it. Story 4. The Facility. The warehouse wasn't on my GPS, wasn't on any map, but I could see it from the highway, a massive concrete structure squatting in the New Mexico desert like something that had fallen from orbit and punched through the Earth's surface. The delivery manifest listed the address as Facility 7, County Road 447, 23 miles south of Socorro. County Road 447 didn't exist. I'd checked 3 different mapping systems, but there it was, exactly where the coordinates said it would be. And the road leading to it was fresh asphalt, still steaming in the afternoon heat. Denise Wolcott, 46 years old, independent contractor, no company affiliations, specialized in high-security deliveries. Government contracts mostly, the kind that required background checks and NDAs and security clearances I didn't ask questions about. Good pay, excellent benefits, absolute discretion. I'd delivered to military bases, research labs, facilities with names like Site 19 and Installation Kappa. Never had problems. Never saw anything I wasn't supposed to see. This was different. The manifest was thin. 1 item. A sealed container, 8 feet long, 4 feet wide, 3 feet deep. Weight, 847 pounds. Contents, classified. Handling instructions. Do not open, do not scan, do not deviate from prescribed route. Maintain ambient temperature between 50-70 degrees Fahrenheit. Pickup was a nondescript warehouse in Tucson. The loading crew wore hazmat suits and wouldn't make eye contact. They loaded the container with a forklift, strapped it down with enough chains to secure a car, then sealed my trailer with a lock that required both a key and a biometric scan to open. "Drive straight there," the supervisor said through his respirator, voice muffled and mechanical. "No stops except fuel. When you arrive, stay in your cab. Someone will meet you." "What's in the container?" I asked. "Irrelevant to your function." I signed the paperwork and drove. The container sat in my trailer like a held breath, silent and heavy, making the truck handle differently. The weight distribution wrong in ways I couldn't articulate. It wasn't the mass. I'd hauled heavier loads. It was something else, like the container was pulling the truck down into the earth, increasing gravity in its immediate vicinity. The first 12 hours were normal. I-10 east through Arizona, steady traffic, decent weather. But as I approached the New Mexico border, other vehicles became scarce. By the time I took the exit for Socorro, I was alone on the highway. No cars in either direction, no planes overhead, just desert and sky and the feeling of being watched by something with too many eyes. County Road 447 appeared at sunset, exactly where the coordinates indicated. A perfect strip of new asphalt cutting through scrubland, straight as a ruler heading toward the facility. I could see it in the distance, a dark shape against the darkening sky, too large and too angular to be natural. I turned onto the road. My radio died immediately, not static, not interference, just complete silence, like someone had cut the power. My phone showed no signal. The GPS flickered and went black. Even the CB was dead. And CB radios don't just die. They're analog, simple. You'd have to physically destroy them to make them stop working. The facility grew larger as I approached, and details emerged that made my hands tighten on the wheel. The building had no windows, no doors that I could see from the front, no signage, no lights, no indication of purpose or function, just smooth concrete, stained and weathered, rising 7 stories high and extending at least 300 feet in each direction. A perfect cube, precise and wrong. The road led directly to it, ending at a wall. No parking area, no loading dock, no gate, just road intersecting wall. I stopped the truck 50 feet from the building, engine idling, waiting for someone to meet me like the supervisor had promised. The sun was setting behind me, casting my shadow long across the asphalt, and in that shadow I could see movement. Things crawling, writhing, shapes that didn't match my truck or my body. I looked down. The ground around my tires was wrong. The asphalt was moving, slow ripples spreading outward from my wheels like water disturbed by dropped stones. The wall opened. No door, no mechanism. The concrete simply parted, a vertical seam appearing and widening, revealing darkness beyond. No lights inside, no people, no equipment. Just a tunnel extending into black, perfectly circular, too perfect for human engineering. My radio crackled to life. A voice, gender indeterminate, speaking without inflection. Proceed to loading bay 17. Maintain current speed. Do not stop. Do not exit your vehicle. I can't see anything in there, I said. Proceed to loading bay 17. The darkness ahead was absolute. My headlights didn't penetrate it, just stopped at the threshold like light was a liquid that couldn't flow into that space. But the voice had given me an order, and I was being paid to follow orders, so I shifted into gear and drove into the facility. The transition was instantaneous. One moment I was in the New Mexico desert, the next I was somewhere else, somewhere that violated basic laws of physics. The tunnel was too long. I drove for 3 minutes at 15 miles per hour, over half a mile, and the tunnel kept extending ahead of me, unchanging. The building was only 300 feet across. This was impossible. The walls were smooth and warm, radiating heat I could feel through the cab windows. They were breathing, expanding and contracting in slow rhythm, and I realized they were organic, not concrete, something else, something grown. Loading bay 17 appeared ahead, a circle of red light in the darkness. I drove toward it, the tunnel narrowing gradually, squeezing my truck, metal scraping against walls that felt like cartilage. When I emerged into the bay, I understood I'd made a terrible mistake. The room was vast, cathedral-sized, and filled with vehicles. Trucks like mine, dozens of them parked in neat rows, all empty, all abandoned. The driver's doors hung open, no people, no equipment. Just trucks and silence and that red light emanating from the ceiling, which wasn't ceiling but something pulsing, something alive. Park in space 17, the voice said from my dead radio. Space 17 was in the center of the room. I parked, hands shaking, and looked around. The other trucks were in various states of decay. Some looked recent, paint still fresh. Others were rusted, ancient, covered in something like moss but redder, wetter. One truck nearest to me had vines growing through the cab, emerging from the seats, from the dashboard, thick ropey things that pulsed in time with the ceiling. Exit your vehicle, the voice said. No, I was told to stay in my cab. Exit your vehicle, bring the container, proceed to processing. I'm leaving. Delivery is complete, The door locks clicked open on their own. All of them simultaneously. The driver's door swung wide and I felt pressure, invisible hands pushing me, forcing me out of the cab. I grabbed the steering wheel, held on, but the pressure increased, became crushing, squeezing my chest, my head, making my vision blur. I fell out onto the floor. The ground was soft, organic, like standing on a stomach. It gurgled beneath my boots. The container in my trailer began to scream, not metaphorically, actual screaming, human voices in agony, dozens of them coming from inside the sealed metal box. I could hear fists pounding against the interior, nails scraping metal, voices begging to be released. "Proceed to processing," the voice said, now coming from everywhere, from the walls, from the floor, from inside my own head. The trailer door unlocked itself. The biometric seal disengaged with a hiss, and the door swung open, revealing the container. It was vibrating, shaking so hard the chains were rattling, and the screaming was deafening now, hundreds of voices overlapping. The container's lid began to open. I ran. Didn't think, just sprinted across that soft floor toward the tunnel I'd entered through. Behind me, the container opened fully and the screaming stopped, replaced by wet sounds, tearing sounds. Something large pulling itself free from metal constraints. The tunnel was gone. Where I'd entered was now solid wall, smooth and seamless. I spun around looking for another exit, any way out. The other trucks had changed. The doors were opening and things were emerging from them. Drivers, or what used to be drivers, transformed into something else. Their bodies were wrong, stretched and merged with metal and machinery. Skin grafted to steel, bones fused with engine parts. They moved toward me, limbs bending at impossible angles, faces slack and empty. The thing from the container was standing now. 8 feet tall. Vaguely humanoid, but wrong in every detail. Its skin was translucent, showing organs that weren't human, structures that pulsed and writhed. Where its face should be was a cavity deep and dark, and from that cavity came a voice I recognized. My own voice, my exact inflection. "Thank you for the delivery, Denise," it said with my voice. "We've been waiting for you." The transformed drivers surrounded me, their hands reaching out, touching my skin, my hair, examining me like I was a specimen. Their touches were cold, clinical. One of them opened its mouth, and instead of teeth, there were fingers, tiny human fingers wriggling like worms. "Processing begins now," the voice from everywhere said. "Thank you for your service. You will be retained for future deliveries." The floor opened beneath me. Not a trapdoor, not a mechanism. The flesh just parted, and I fell into darkness, into warmth, into wet spaces that contracted around me like a throat swallowing. I woke up in my truck on Highway 25, 20 miles north of Socorro, parked on the shoulder. Dawn light streaming through the windshield. My trailer was empty, door open, chains neatly coiled. No container, no cargo, my GPS worked. My phone had signal, everything was normal. Except for my hands. My hands were different. The skin was too smooth, too perfect, like plastic. When I flexed my fingers, I could see seams, joints that weren't natural. I touched my face and felt the same smoothness, the same wrongness. My reflection in the mirror was me, but not me. Same features, same hair, but something fundamental had changed. My eyes were too symmetrical. My smile was too even. There was a new delivery manifest on my dashboard. Facility 7, County Road 447. Pickup, Denise Wolcott. Weight, 847 pounds, contents classified. Delivery instructions, return to processing. I'm writing this from a truck stop in Albuquerque. I've been here for 6 hours, trying to decide what to do. My phone keeps ringing. Dispatch, wanting to know why I haven't accepted the new delivery. Every time I ignore it, the next call comes from a different number, but the voice is always the same. My own voice, telling me it's time to go back. The other drivers here look at me strangely. They see something I can't, something wrong about me that's becoming more obvious as the hours pass. My skin is getting smoother, more plastic. My joints click when I move. I'm changing, processing, continuing, turning me into something that can make more deliveries, that can bring more containers to the facility, that can fill its hunger with cargo that screams. County Road 447 exists now on every map I check. Multiple facilities, Facility 7, Facility 12, Facility 19. All of them have deliveries waiting. All of them need drivers. All of them are hungry. I can feel them calling. The facilities, singing to me in voices that sound like grinding metal and tearing flesh, promising that if I come back, if I make one more delivery, they'll make me perfect, they'll finish the processing, they'll make me useful. My hands aren't hands anymore. As I write this, I can see the transformation completing. Metal under skin, wires instead of veins. I'm becoming the delivery, I'm becoming the cargo, and the worst part is I want to go back. I want to drive to Facility 7 and park in Space 17 and let them finish what they started. Because staying human hurts now. Staying separate from them is agony. I can feel my old body fighting, trying to resist, but it's losing. And the new body, the processed body, promises efficiency, promises purpose. The manifest says pickup is in 1 hour. Facility 7 is sending a crew. They're coming to collect me because I am the cargo now. I am the delivery. And somewhere in the New Mexico desert, the facility is opening its mouth, preparing to swallow another driver, another truck, another soul to add to its collection. If you ever get a manifest for Facility 7, refuse it. Take the pay cut. Take the termination. Because the facilities don't just want deliveries, they want drivers. And once you've made your first delivery, you're never really free to leave. Story 5. The Static Zone. The CB radio had been screaming for 17 minutes. Not static, not interference, but actual screaming. Thousands of voices overlapping, words in languages that hurt to hear. I'd tried turning it off, didn't work, tried unplugging it. The screaming continued, emanating from the disconnected unit like it had its own power source, its own will. Now I was driving through Iowa darkness with my hands pressed over my ears, and the screaming was getting louder, and I could start understanding some of the words. They were giving me directions. James Kellerman, 38 years old, 10 years hauling freight, mostly Midwest routes, Chicago to Kansas City to Minneapolis. Reliable loads, decent pay, enough to support my ex-wife's alimony and my daughter's college fund. I'd heard trucker stories, ghost hitchhikers, phantom vehicles, mysterious lights. Never believed them. Never had reason to. Until Highway 80 eastbound, mile marker 233, where the radio started screaming and reality began to unravel. It started with normal static, the kind you get between stations. I was scanning for weather updates when the static sharpened, became rhythmic, almost like Morse code. Then it resolved into a voice, female, young, speaking clearly. Turn left at the next exit. There was no next exit. I was on a straight stretch of highway, nothing but farmland for 30 miles. Turn left at the next exit, the voice repeated, patient and insistent. Wrong frequency, I said to myself, reaching to change channels. But every channel had the same voice, the same instruction. And when I tried to turn the CB off, the voice grew louder, multiplied, became a choir of identical voices, all saying the same thing. The exit appeared ahead, exit 233B, not on any map, not on my GPS, just suddenly there, a ramp cutting off into darkness. My hands turned the wheel without my permission. I felt them move, felt my foot press the brake, but I wasn't controlling them. The truck took the exit. The road beyond was wrong, too straight, too smooth, asphalt so black it seemed to absorb light, white lines so bright they hurt to look at, and on either side, nothing. Not fields, not trees, not horizon, just empty space, void, like driving through the gap between television stations. The voices on the CB changed. Now they were screaming. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, all screaming different things, different languages, but underneath the chaos I could hear patterns, rhythms, instructions encoded in the noise. Mile marker 1, one voice shrieked. Don't stop, another wailed. You're almost there, a third whispered. I had no idea where there was. Mile markers appeared, white signs in the void counting up. 1, 2, 3, 4. But between each marker I could see other numbers flickering, ghost markers, transparent and wrong. Mile 1.5, mile 2.7, mile 3.14, 159. The numbers weren't sequential, they weren't even consistent. I passed mile 4 3 times before mile 5 appeared. The void on either side started filling with images. Flickering scenes like broken television screens, each one showing different locations, different times. I saw highways I'd driven years ago, rest stops I'd forgotten, intersections where I'd made deliveries. But they were occupied now. In each scene I could see figures, humanoid but wrong, too tall, too thin, moving in stuttering jerks like stop-motion animation. They were watching me. Hundreds of them, thousands, standing in those flickering scenes, all facing my direction, all perfectly still except for their heads, which tracked my truck as I passed. The screaming on the CB resolved into a single voice, my exact inflection, speaking words I'd never said. "Welcome to the static zone. Please proceed to your designated receiving area. Your cargo has been waiting." I checked my trailer through the mirror. I wasn't hauling cargo. This was a deadhead run. Empty trailer, just repositioning equipment. But in the mirror, I could see boxes stacked in the trailer, hundreds of them piled to the ceiling, all identical brown cardboard marked with symbols I didn't recognize. I looked away from the mirror, looked back. The trailer was empty again. Mirror, full, away, empty. The cargo existed only in reflection, only in that reversed reality the mirror showed. Mile marker 13 appeared, and with it something massive looming ahead. A structure, impossibly large, rising from the void like a mountain made of television screens. Each screen showed a different image. Highways, faces, landscapes, all flickering at different rates, creating a nauseating strobe effect. The road led directly into it, into a tunnel-like opening at its base. The opening was lined with more screens, and as I got closer, I realized the screens were showing me my truck from different angles, different distances, different times. I could see myself from above, from below, from inside the cab looking out, from outside looking in. Infinite perspectives, all slightly out of sync, creating a cascade of temporal echoes. "Proceed to receiving," the voices commanded, now speaking in perfect unison, thousands of mouths forming the same words at the same instant. The tunnel swallowed me. The screens on the walls were playing my life. Childhood memories, teenage moments, my wedding, my divorce, my daughter's birth, every significant moment and every mundane second, all happening simultaneously, all wrong. In the screen version of my wedding, my bride had my daughter's face. In the screen version of my daughter's birth, I was the one giving birth, my body split open in ways bodies shouldn't split. The tunnel went on forever. I drove for hours, days maybe, time losing meaning. My body forgetting how to feel tired or hungry or anything except the vibration of the engine and the screaming from the CB, which had evolved now into a language I understood completely, even though I'd never heard it before. It was telling me what I was, what I'd always been, what I'd become. "Trucker Unit 847, it said. "Designation Kellerman James, function transport, status integrated." The tunnel ended at a warehouse larger than cities, filled with trucks. Thousands of them, tens of thousands, all parked in perfect rows, all facing the same direction, all empty. The drivers were still inside them. I could see their shapes through the windows, but they weren't moving, weren't breathing, just sitting at their wheels like mannequins. An empty space waited for me. Space 847, my designation number painted on the floor in white. I parked and my hands released the wheel, and I understood I would never hold it again. The screaming stopped. Silence. Perfect, absolute silence. The CB was off. The engine was off. Everything was off. But I could still see, still think, still feel the terrible understanding settling into my brain like ice. I was cargo now. Had always been cargo. The trucks, the highways, the deliveries, all of it was just a mechanism to collect us, to bring us here, to the static zone where truckers came to be stored, to be cataloged, to be preserved in the moments between broadcast signals. The figures I'd seen in the flickering scenes appeared around my truck, pressing their faces against the windows. They weren't humanoid. That had been a trick of perception, a kindness my brain had offered before understanding. They were the gaps themselves, the spaces between television stations, the static given form and purpose. And they were welcoming me. One of them opened my door. I tried to move, to run, but my body was fixed in place, hands locked to the wheel even though I wasn't holding it. The thing reached in, and its touch was like television snow against my skin, like white noise made tactile. It pulled me from the cab, and I felt myself coming apart, dissolving into component signals. I tried to scream, but my voice emerged as static. I woke up on Highway 80, parked at a rest stop outside Des Moines, sun rising, early morning traffic picking up. My CB was working normally, my truck was fine, everything was fine. Except I couldn't remember the last 3 days. Couldn't remember making this delivery or why I was here or what had happened after mile marker 233. But there was a new scar on my left hand. A perfect rectangle, like a television screen burned into my flesh. And when I looked at it from certain angles, I could see images playing inside it. Tiny scenes. A warehouse full of trucks, figures made of static, mile markers counting up to infinity. I drive past mile marker 233 twice a week on my regular route. Every time I see exit 233B for just a moment, a flicker, a ghost of a road that shouldn't exist. And sometimes, late at night when the CB is quiet, I hear voices. Not many. Just one or two whispering coordinates, giving directions to a place that doesn't appear on maps. Other truckers are disappearing. I've heard the reports. Trucks found abandoned, drivers missing. CB radios still broadcasting static. I know where they are. I know where they've gone. They're in the static zone, parked in their designated spaces, becoming part of the collection. Their consciousnesses converted to broadcast signals that leak out through radios and television sets and any device that can receive transmission. I should warn people. Should tell them about exit 233B, about the static zone, about what's waiting in the spaces between signals. But I won't, because part of me is still there, still parked in space 847, still dissolving into white noise. And that part is calling to the part that's here, the part still driving, still pretending to be human. The scar on my hand is growing. Every day a little larger, a little clearer. Soon it will cover my whole hand, then my arm, then my body. The static zone is claiming me gradually, pulling me back bit by bit, converting me from flesh to signal. And the worst part is I want to go back, because being human is exhausting. Being separate is painful. In the static zone, there's no loneliness, no fear, no awareness of time passing or opportunities lost. There's just the eternal moment, the perfect stillness, the absorption into something larger than self. Exit 233B appears in my headlights more frequently now, every few days instead of every week, then every day. Now multiple times per shift. It's always there, just at the edge of perception, waiting for the moment when I'm too tired to resist, when my hands turn the wheel without permission, when I drive back into the void and park in my designated space and become what I was always meant to be. A signal, a broadcast, a voice in the static, giving directions to other drivers, calling them home to the zone where all truckers eventually arrive. The CB is screaming again. I should turn it off, but I won't. Because I recognize one of the voices now. It's mine. The version of me that's already fully converted, already part of the system, calling to the version that's still pretending to be real. Turn left at the next exit, it says, patient and insistent. And soon, very soon, I will. Story 6. The delivery to myself. The signature on the delivery confirmation was mine. Exact match, same slant, same pressure points, the little loop I always make on the capital J. But I'd just arrived at the warehouse in Memphis. I hadn't signed anything yet. The clipboard in the dock supervisor's hand showed my signature dated 3 hours in the future, and his face was gray with terror as he showed it to me. Jennifer Morrison, 33 years old, 5 years running specialized freight, fine art, antiques, high-value electronics, white glove service, climate-controlled trailers, personal delivery. This run was standard. 8 crates of gallery pieces from a private collection in Chicago to a buyer in New Orleans. Total value, $4 million. Everything routine until I pulled into the Memphis distribution center for the overnight hold and saw myself unloading the truck. She looked exactly like me. Same height, same build, same ponytail, same scar on her left forearm from a loading accident 2 years ago. She was wearing my clothes, the specific jeans with the paint stain on the right knee, the red flannel shirt with the missing button. She moved like me, walked like me, even had the same habit of tugging her ponytail when she was concentrating. But she was 3 hours ahead of me in time. I watched from my cab, frozen, as she unloaded my cargo, crates I was supposed to deliver tomorrow, and signed the paperwork. The dock supervisor didn't react to her like she was unusual. He processed her delivery normally, helped with the forklift, signed off on the manifest. Then she got in a truck, my truck, same plate number, same dent in the rear fender, and drove away. Toward me. Our trucks passed each other in the parking lot. I got a clear look at her face through her window. She smiled at me. Not a friendly smile, a knowing smile. A smile that said she understood something I didn't, something terrible, and I would understand it soon enough. I parked and went into the office, hands shaking. The supervisor, Eddie, I'd known him for 3 years, was filing paperwork. My paperwork. The delivery I hadn't made yet. "Eddie," I said, what time did I deliver?" He looked up, confused. "What do you mean? You just delivered 10 minutes ago." "No, I just got here. I'm about to unload." He stared at me, face going pale. "Jennifer, you already—" He stopped, looked at the paperwork, looked at me, looked at his watch. "This signature is time-stamped 11:47 p.m. It's 8:35 p.m. now. That's not possible." "Show me the security footage." He pulled it up on the computer. There I was, arriving at 11:47 p.m., 3 hours in my own future. The timestamp was clear. The video showed me, me, backing up to the dock, unloading the crates with Eddie's help, signing the paperwork, leaving. Everything normal except the timestamp and the fact that I was watching myself do things I hadn't done yet. "This is a glitch," Eddie said, voice shaking. "System error. The clock must be wrong." "Check your phone," I said. He checked. 8:37 p.m. The security system clock showed 8:37 p.m., but the video timestamp showed 11:47 p.m., and the signature time matched it, and there was no way to explain this that didn't break fundamental rules about how reality worked. I went back to my truck. The cargo was still there, all 8 crates sealed and secure. I verified the manifest, checked the seals, confirmed everything was exactly as it should be. But in 3 hours, according to the footage, I would unload it. And somehow that had already happened. I called the buyer in New Orleans. A woman answered, Louise Carrier, the private collector. I'd never met her, only corresponded by email. "Ms. Carrier, this is Jennifer Morrison from Premium Transport. I'm calling to confirm delivery tomorrow morning." Silence on the line. Then, "You already delivered this afternoon. You personally handed me the crates. We uncrated them together. Everything was perfect. I signed off on the delivery 6 hours ago." "That's impossible. I'm in Memphis. The cargo is still in my truck." "Jennifer, I'm looking at the paintings right now. They're hanging in my gallery. You delivered them at 3 p.m. Central Time. We had coffee. You told me about your daughter Emma, how she's starting kindergarten in the fall." "I don't have a daughter. I've never been pregnant. I don't have children." "Ms. Carrier, I think there's been a mistake. You showed me a photo of Emma. Beautiful little girl, blonde hair, blue eyes. You said she loves drawing, wants to be an artist like her mother. My hands were ice. What did I look like? The person who delivered? Like you. Exactly like you sound. Same voice, same everything. She had a scar on her left arm. I hung up, checked my phone's photo gallery. There were new pictures, hundreds of them. A little girl, maybe 5 years old, blonde hair, blue eyes, in playgrounds, at birthday parties, sleeping, laughing, covered in paint from art projects. Emma Morrison, my daughter, who didn't exist, who I'd never given birth to, who was somehow real in photographs dated over the last 5 years. The photos were updating in real time. As I watched, new ones appeared. Emma from yesterday, Emma from this morning, Emma at kindergarten orientation last week. Memories I didn't have, documented in images I'd never taken. I drove, didn't unload, didn't sleep, just drove south toward New Orleans trying to outrun whatever was happening. The GPS showed my route, 4 hours to destination. But other routes appeared on the screen, ghost routes, transparent overlays showing different paths, different decisions. In one route, I'd already arrived. In another, I was 3 hours behind schedule. In a third, I'd never left Chicago. At midnight, I passed myself going the opposite direction. My truck, my plate number, heading north. I got a glimpse of the driver, me but older, hair-graying lines on my face. She was crying, gripping the wheel so hard her knuckles were bone white. My phone rang. Unknown number, I answered. "Don't go to New Orleans," a voice said. My voice. "Turn around. Drive anywhere else. Don't deliver the cargo." "Who is this?" "You. 3 years from now. Please, Jennifer, listen to me. If you deliver those crates, if you meet Louise Carrier, it starts. All of this starts. The split, the multiplication, the versions. Turn around before it's too late." "Before what's too late?" "Before you become us, before you fracture into all the possibilities, before—" The line went dead. I kept driving. What else could I do? The cargo was worth $4 million. My contract stipulated delivery. My reputation depended on it. So I drove, even though every instinct screamed that I was driving towards something terrible, something that would break me into pieces that could never be reassembled. Louise Carrier's gallery was in the French Quarter, a beautiful old building with iron balconies and high ceilings. I arrived at 4:47 a.m., 3 hours early. The lights were on. Louise was inside, arranging paintings on the walls. The paintings from my cargo, the crates I hadn't unloaded yet. She saw me through the window and waved, smiling. I got out, checked my trailer. The crates were gone. All 8 of them. The trailer was empty. But I hadn't unloaded. I'd been driving all night. I'd never stopped, never opened the doors. Louise came outside, coffee in hand. "Jennifer, you're early. I thought you weren't arriving until 8 a.m. "I delivered at 3 p.m. yesterday," I said, voice flat. "No, that was the other you. You're the 8 a.m. delivery, or wait." She paused, consulted a notebook. "Are you the 4:47 a.m. delivery? I'm sorry, I lose track. There are so many of you now." "So many of me?" "At least 7 that I've met. Maybe more. The first delivery was March 12th, then another on March 14th, then yesterday, today, tomorrow. They keep arriving, all of you, all slightly different, all delivering the same cargo at different times. I've received 32 crates total. I only ordered 8. The world tilted. I sat down hard on the curb, head between my knees, trying to breathe. Louise sat beside me, patient and kind. "It started with the paintings, you know. They're special. Temporal art, the collector called it. They show different moments simultaneously, past and future layered on top of each other. When you transport them, when you spend hours in proximity to them, you start to split. You become multiple versions of yourself, each one experiencing a slightly different timeline. Most of the other Jennifers don't remember each other. They deliver their cargo and drive away and never know their fragments. But you're different. You're aware. That's rare. How do I stop it? You don't. Once it starts, it's permanent. You'll keep splitting, keep multiplying, each version making slightly different choices, taking slightly different routes. Right now, there are probably a dozen yous on highways across America, all driving, all delivering, all thinking they're the original. And they're all right. You're all the original. You're all copies. The distinction doesn't mean anything anymore. I looked at my hands. They were flickering, becoming transparent, then solid, then transparent again. I could see through them to other hands, other versions of my hands, making different gestures, holding different things, steering wheels, coffee cups. A little girl's hand. Emma's hand, in the timeline where she existed. She's real, you know, Louise said, following my gaze. Emma, in some of your timelines. You have her, you love her, you're terrified of losing her. In others, she was never born. In others, she died. But she's real in the timelines where she exists, just as real as you are. I want to go home. Which home? Which timeline? You have 17 different apartments across 17 different possibilities. In some, you're still married. In some, you never married. In some, you're not even a trucker. But you are here now in this timeline, and you just delivered my cargo, and soon another you will deliver it again, and another and another. We're all stuck in our loops, Jennifer. The paintings ensured it. I stood up, walked to my truck, got in. The trailer was full again. 8 crates, sealed and secure like they'd never been unloaded. A new manifest appeared on my dashboard. Delivery to Louise Carrier, New Orleans, 8 a.m. Then another manifest underneath it. Delivery to Louise Carrier, New Orleans, 11:30 a.m. Then another, 2:15 p.m. Dozens of deliveries, all to the same location, all at different times, all for cargo I was carrying right now. I'm writing this from a rest stop outside Baton Rouge. It's 6:23 a.m. I have 7 different delivery times scheduled for today, and I can feel myself splitting further with each passing mile. There's a version of me that delivered at 4:47 a.m. That already happened. There's a version delivering at 8 a.m. That's happening soon. There are versions from yesterday, from tomorrow, from next year, all converging on the same gallery, all carrying the same paintings, all fracturing into smaller and smaller pieces. And Emma is in my passenger seat. Sometimes, when I look from the corner of my eye, a little girl who exists in some timelines and not in others, flickering in and out of being, asking me questions I can't answer about why Mommy keeps disappearing. I don't know which version of me will complete this delivery. I don't know if I'm the original or a copy, or if that distinction ever mattered. All I know is I'm driving toward New Orleans, toward Louise's gallery, toward the moment when I'll unload cargo that's already been delivered, that hasn't been delivered yet, that exists in all moments simultaneously. The paintings are changing me. I can feel them in the trailer, radiating temporal distortion, pulling me apart into infinite versions, each one real, each one trapped in their own timeline, all of us driving the same highways forever. If you see a truck with plate number JM2847, if you see a woman who looks like Jennifer Morrison, if you meet someone who claims to have delivered cargo they're still carrying, that's me. One of me. One of many. And I'm sorry I can't tell you which one is real, because we all are. We're all driving, we're all delivering, we're all fragmenting into the infinite timelines we could have lived if only we'd chosen different routes. Story 7. The Way Station. The way station appeared between mile markers 167 and 168 on Route 50, Nevada's loneliest road in America, and I'd driven this route 48 times in the past 2 years without ever seeing it before. The sign was ancient, sun-faded, barely readable. Mandatory stop all commercial vehicles, federal inspection required. The facility beyond looked like it had been abandoned since the 1950s. Crumbling concrete, rusted scales, windows dark with accumulated grime. Every instinct screamed to drive past. But my truck was already slowing, foot moving to the brake without my permission, hands steering toward the exit ramp. By the time I realized I wasn't controlling the vehicle anymore, I was committed to the exit, rolling down the decrepit ramp toward a place that shouldn't exist. Michael Torres, 47 years old, 22 years hauling freight across the American West. I specialized in late-night runs, the shifts other drivers avoided, finding a strange peace in empty highways and pre-dawn silence. This particular run was simple. Electronics from Reno to Denver, standard cargo, routine route. Nothing about it suggested I'd encounter something that would challenge my understanding of what was real. The way station was larger than it had appeared from the highway. The building stretched back into darkness, longer than physically possible given the terrain. The scale platform was huge, big enough for 5 trucks side by side, and as my headlights swept across it, I saw markings, white paint, symbols that weren't numbers or letters but something else, geometric patterns that hurt to look at directly. A figure emerged from the office. Human-shaped but wrong in the proportions, arms too long, legs bending at too many joints. It wore a uniform, or something like a uniform, fabric that seemed to shift color in the headlights, never quite settling on a single shade. As it got closer, I could see its face was a smooth oval, no features except a vertical slit where a mouth should be. It gestured toward the scale, the universal pull-forward motion. I wanted to run, wanted to floor the accelerator and crash through whatever barrier might be ahead. But my hands turned the wheel, my foot pressed the gas gently, and I drove onto the scale platform. The moment all 18 wheels were on the platform, everything changed. Weight appeared on the digital display, but not in pounds or kilograms. The numbers were wrong, nonsensical. 847.2 souls, 1233 memories, 94 years accumulated time, 6 violations detected. The figure approached my window. Up close, I could see that the slit mouth was opening, widening, revealing not teeth or tongue, but a void, an absence so complete it seemed to pull light into it. "Good evening, Mr. Torres," it said, voice emanating from somewhere other than the mouth, resonating from inside my own skull. "Random inspection, please provide your documentation." I handed over my logbook, registration, cargo manifest, hands shaking. The figure didn't take them. Instead, it pressed one too long hand against my door, and I felt something scanning me. Not the truck, not the cargo, but me. My memories, my history, my choices. Every decision I'd ever made being cataloged and weighed. "Violation 1, it announced. "March 14th, 2019, you drove 847 miles without adequate rest. Fatigue level, critical. Risk to others, severe." I remembered that trip, my daughter's birthday. I'd pushed too, hard to make it home in time, stayed awake with caffeine and adrenaline when I should have stopped. Made it safely, no accidents, but I had been dangerously tired. "Violation 2, June 3rd, 2021, you transported unsecured cargo, 3 boxes shifted during transport. Highway 15, mile marker 223. If you had braked suddenly, they would have crushed the barrier between trailer and cab. You would have died." I remembered. The load had seemed secure. I checked it 3 times, but something had shifted during the drive. I'd heard the boxes moving, had been lucky nothing worse happened. Violation 3 through 6, various dates, mechanical issues ignored, maintenance delayed, safety protocols bypassed. All true. All minor, all things every trucker did at some point, taking calculated risks, pushing limits just a little. Nothing major, nothing that had caused harm. "Total weight of violations," the figure said, and the digital display changed. 247 pounds of consequence, payment required. Payment? The weight of what might have been, Every risk you took, every choice that could have ended differently, every version of your life where you made the wrong decision and people died. That weight must be measured, that debt must be paid. The scale platform began to descend, not mechanically, just sinking, the entire truck and I going down into the earth like we were on an elevator. The way station office stayed at ground level, getting farther away as we descended, and I could see now that the building extended deep underground, stories and stories of it, a massive structure hidden beneath the Nevada desert. We descended for 3 minutes, maybe more. The walls of the shaft were lined with windows, and through each window I could see other trucks, other drivers, all being weighed, all being judged. Some were being unloaded by more of those featureless figures. Others were being disassembled, torn apart piece by piece, the metal sorted into piles based on some criteria I couldn't understand. The scale platform reached the bottom, a vast chamber filled with thousands of scales, each one holding a different vehicle. Cars, motorcycles, buses, trucks of every size. Some were ancient, Model Ts and older. Some were futuristic, designs I'd never seen. All of them being weighed, their drivers standing beside them being evaluated by those uniformed figures. My truck stopped descending. The figure was still at my window, hands still pressed against the door, still scanning me. "The violations are significant," it said, "but not severe. You have options." Options? Payment can be made in multiple currencies. Years of service, memories of loved ones, future potential, physical mass, choose. I didn't understand. What happens if I don't pay? The figure gestured to the other vehicles. Permanent detention. Your truck becomes part of the facility. You become part of the staff. Eternal service, weighing others, collecting debts, maintaining the balance. It's not unpleasant. You stop feeling time. You stop feeling much of anything. I looked at the other uniformed figures moving through the chamber. They had been drivers once. All of them. Detained for violations, transformed into enforcers of whatever laws this place operated under. I could see hints of humanity beneath their blank faces. A gesture that was almost familiar. A gait that suggested a personality long suppressed. How do I pay in years? 20 years of your remaining life. You have approximately 32 years left. Give us 20. Live the rest free of debt. I'd be 67 instead of 87. Still time with my daughter, with potential grandchildren. Still time to live, just less of it. Memories of loved ones. All memories of your daughter. We extract them completely. She ceases to exist in your past. You'll remember being a father in abstract, but not her specifically. Not her face, her voice, her presence. The relationship will be theoretical, not experiential. Unthinkable. My daughter was everything. Every decision I made was for her. Future potential? The best version of yourself you could become. We take that possibility, leave you with the mediocre versions. You'll never achieve what you might have achieved. Never reach the potential you had. You'll be adequate. Forever. Physical mass? 247 pounds of your body, extracted however we choose. Organs, tissue, bone. We select based on what maintains functionality while meeting the debt. All the options were horrible. All of them took something irreplaceable. But the alternative was staying here, becoming one of those things, losing everything anyway. The years, I said, take 20 years. The figure tilted its head. Accepted. Processing payment. Pain. Immediate, absolute, overwhelming pain radiating from my chest outward. I felt something being pulled out of me, not physical but not metaphysical either. Something that existed between those categories, something fundamental. The pain lasted forever and no time at all, and when it stopped, I was different. Lighter. Older. I looked at my hands and they were more wrinkled, joints more swollen. I checked the mirror and saw gray hair where there had been black, deeper lines, the unmistakable mark of decades added in seconds. Payment received. Debt satisfied. You may proceed. The scale platform rose, carrying me back up through the shaft, past all those windows, past all those detained drivers. I emerged at ground level, back at the way station, back on Route 50. The figure gestured forward. Proceed. You're free to go. I drove, hands shaking, mind reeling, trying to process what had happened. The highway looked normal. The night looked normal. But I could feel the absence inside me, the 20 years I'd just lost, and I knew I was different now. Diminished. Lesser. My phone rang. My daughter calling to check in. She did that every few days, made sure I was safe. "Hey, Dad," she said. "Just wanted to say hi. Love you." "Love you too, sweetheart." "You sound tired. Are you okay?" "Yeah, just getting older." She laughed. "You're not that old. You've got years ahead of you." 20 fewer than I used to have. 20 years I'd never get back, never live through, never experience. I'd miss 20 years of her life, birthdays, milestones, moments. Not immediately, not all at once, but gradually, as time moved forward and I reached the end sooner than I should have. I made it to Denver, delivered the cargo, collected payment. Everything normal. But I checked my logbook and saw new entries, violations recorded, debts noted. Small things. Minor infractions, the kind of mistakes every driver makes without thinking. Each one adding weight, adding debt, bringing me closer to the next way station, the next payment. And I understood. The way station wasn't a random encounter. It wasn't a mistake. It was always there, existing in the spaces between perception, waiting for drivers who'd accumulated enough violations, enough debt. Every risk we took, every rule we bent, every corner we cut, all of it was being tracked, measured, weighed against some cosmic scale of consequence. I drive more carefully now, follow every regulation perfectly, maintain my vehicle obsessively. Sleep when I'm supposed to sleep, drive only when I'm supposed to drive. But I still accumulate violations. Impossible not to. Equipment fails. Weather changes. Unexpected situations arise. Every time I make a decision, any decision, there's a version of events where it was the wrong decision, and that weight gets added to my debt. The way station appears more frequently now. Once a month, then once a week, then every few days. Different locations, different highways, but always the same building, the same scales, the same featureless figures. Each time I owe less, smaller violations, smaller debts, but the payments add up. Years, memories, possibilities. I'm being dismantled piece by piece, payment by payment, until there's nothing left to take. Last week, the figure offered me a new option. Join us. Become staff. Stop accumulating debt. Spend eternity weighing others instead of being weighed. I said no. But the offer is always there, always available, becoming more tempting as my debts increase and my payments diminish what's left of my life. I saw another driver at the way station yesterday. Young guy, maybe 25, first major violation. He paid in future potential. I watched as something was extracted from him, watched as his eyes dimmed, as the spark of ambition and possibility drained away. He drove off adequate, functional, but lesser. He'll be a mediocre driver for the rest of his life. Never great, never remarkable, just sufficient. That could have been me. Should have been me. Maybe will be me next time, when I run out of years to give. The way station is ahead again. I can see it between the mile markers, shimmering into existence where no building should be. My truck is already slowing, my hands already steering toward the exit. The debt has accumulated, payment is due. I don't know what I'll give this time. I'm running out of currency, running out of pieces of myself to sacrifice. But I'll pay. I have to pay. The alternative is staying there forever, becoming one of them, losing not just pieces of myself, but everything that made me human. The scale awaits. The figure awaits. The debt awaits. And I'm almost out of things to pay with. Story 8. The Last Delivery. My final delivery was to an address that kept changing. 483 Riverside Drive when I checked the manifest in Billings, 792 Ocean Boulevard when I verified it outside Salt Lake City, 1547. Mountain View Road by the time I reached the Nevada border. The GPS updated constantly, recalculating not because I deviated from the route, but because the destination itself was moving, shifting, refusing to stay fixed in any one location. Sarah Ostrowski, 29 years old. This was delivery number 10,000 in my career, a milestone I'd been tracking since my first solo run at age 21. I'd requested this specific delivery, something memorable, something significant. Dispatch had assigned me a single package, small and light, destination unlisted in their system. Special request delivery, they said. High priority, extreme discretion required. The package was a cube, 12 inches on each side, wrapped in brown paper that was too smooth, too perfect, like it had never been touched by human hands. It had no weight. I'd placed it on my scale 3 times, 0 pounds every time. When I held it, I felt nothing, no mass, no resistance, like I was holding empty air shaped into a box. The delivery instructions were simple. Follow the manifest, deliver to the recipient, get signature, return to base. But the manifest was rewriting itself constantly, addresses changing, coordinates shifting, and the recipient name kept transforming. First, John Smith, then Mary Johnson, then recipient 10,000, then a string of numbers, then symbols I couldn't pronounce. I should have refused the delivery, should have driven back to Billings and told dispatch this was wrong, impossible, some kind of system error. But this was delivery 10,000, my career milestone, and something about the package called to me, whispered in a frequency just below hearing that I needed to complete this, that everything I'd done for 8 years had been preparation for this single moment. The first strange thing, beyond the changing address and weightless package, was the route itself. The GPS was taking me through places I'd never seen, places that didn't exist on any other map. Highways that appeared and disappeared, towns with names like intersection and between and not yet. I drove through a city built entirely of truck stops, where every building was a diesel pump and a diner and a restroom, repeating infinitely in all directions. I drove through a forest where the trees were made of road signs, their branches pointing in all directions simultaneously. The package sat on my passenger seat, and sometimes when I glanced at it, it wasn't a cube anymore. Sometimes it was a sphere or a pyramid or a shape that hurt to look at, geometry that violated basic rules about angles and dimensions. But when I looked directly at it, it was always a cube again, perfectly ordinary except for the weight that wasn't there. At a fuel stop in a town that might have been in Utah or might have been nowhere at all, another driver approached me. Old man, maybe 70, weathered face, eyes that had seen too much. "That's your 10,000th delivery," he said. Not a question, a statement. "How did you know?" "Because I made my 10,000th delivery 42 years ago. Been trying to make the 10,000 first ever since. Can't do it. Can't make any other delivery. This is it for me. Driving forever, carrying nothing, delivering to nowhere." "You're about to join us." "Us?" He gestured to the fuel station. I looked around and saw them, dozens of drivers, maybe hundreds, all standing by their trucks, all holding packages identical to mine. All of them staring at me with expressions of infinite sadness mixed with relief that someone new was joining their number. "The 10,000th delivery is the last delivery," the old man said. "It's the delivery you never complete. You drive forever chasing an address that doesn't exist, carrying a package that weighs nothing because it contains everything. Every mile you've driven, every delivery you've made, every choice that led you to this moment. You're delivering yourself, Sarah. Delivering yourself to the end of the road. That's insane. Is it? Think about every delivery you've made, every package, every destination. Where did they really go? What were you really carrying? Were any of them real, or were they all just preparation, just training, just the universe teaching you how to drive toward this moment? I got back in my truck and drove. Left him there. Left all of them there, refused to believe it. But the GPS kept changing the destination, and the roads kept getting stranger, and when I checked my fuel gauge, it was always showing exactly half full no matter how many miles I drove. The manifest updated: delivery address, the place where roads end, recipient Sarah Ostrowski, item everything and nothing. I was delivering to myself. The old man had been right, but where? Where was I supposed to go to find myself, to complete this delivery, to reach the 10,000th destination? The answer came as I crested a hill and saw it ahead. A truck stop at the end of the world, literally the end. The road continued for another quarter mile, then just stopped, edge dropping off into nothing. Not a cliff, not an abyss. Nothing. The absence of existence, reality terminating at a hard border, and beyond it was void so complete it made my eyes hurt to look at. The truck stop was full. Hundreds of trucks, maybe thousands, all parked in perfect rows, all facing the void. Their drivers stood beside them, holding their packages, waiting. Waiting for what? I didn't know, but I could feel the anticipation in the air, thick and electric. I parked in the only empty space, number 10,000 painted in white on the asphalt, and got out. The package came with me, light as air, heavy as the universe. Other drivers were gathering, forming a circle around me, and I recognized some of them. Drivers I'd met years ago, drivers I'd passed on highways, drivers who disappeared and were reported missing. "We've been waiting for you," one of them said. Woman, maybe 40, kind eyes. "You're the 10,000th driver to reach the 10,000th delivery. That's significant. That changes things." "Changes how?" "The road ends here," she said, gesturing to the void. "It always has. Every road, every highway, every route, they all terminate at this exact point. We've been driving in circles our whole lives, thinking we were going places, thinking we were making progress. But we were always heading here, to the edge, to the moment when we'd deliver our final package and understand what we'd been carrying." I looked at the package in my hands. It was pulsing now, vibrating with something like a heartbeat. And I realized I could see through the paper. Inside was light, pure and white and infinite. And in that light I could see every road I'd ever driven, every delivery I'd ever made, every mile I'd accumulated. My entire career compressed into 12 inches of space, 8 years of my life contained in a box that weighed nothing. "Open it," the woman said. "Open it and make the final delivery." I tore the paper. The package opened like a flower, petals of brown paper unfurling. And the light inside intensified, became blinding, became everything. I felt myself being pulled into it, felt my body dissolving, felt the distinction between driver and truck and road and destination all blurring together. In that light I understood. Every delivery I'd ever made had been the same delivery. Every package had been the same package. Every destination had been the same destination. I'd been driving in a loop, a perfect circle, picking up versions of myself from my starting point and delivering them to my ending point, over and over, 10,000 iterations of the same moment, the same choice, the same realization. I was the cargo. I was the destination. I was the road itself. And now, having completed the 10,000th delivery, having reached the edge where roads end and drivers become something else, I had one final choice. Step into the void and discover what lay beyond, or turn around and drive the loop again, make another 10,000 deliveries, arrive at this moment again in 8 more years. The other drivers watched me, waiting for my decision. Some of them had been here for decades, arriving at this moment, making their choice over and over. Some had stepped into the void and never returned. Some had turned around and were still driving, still delivering, still hoping that the next loop would be different. I looked at the void. It looked back. And in its absence of everything, I saw infinite possibility. Every road I could have driven, every delivery I could have made, every version of myself that might have existed if I'd made different choices. The void wasn't an ending. It was every ending and every beginning, superimposed, waiting for me to step into it and discover which one I'd become. I looked at the road behind me. It stretched back through all those impossible places, all those shifting destinations, all those miles I'd driven thinking I was going somewhere. And I realized the road was beautiful. The driving was beautiful. The act of moving through space, carrying things from one place to another, existed as its own justification. Maybe I'd been driving in circles, maybe every destination had been the same. But the journey had been real. I made my choice. I stepped into the void, holding the empty package, feeling myself dissolve into light and possibility. The other drivers gasped, and I heard the woman say, "She chose differently. She actually chose differently." The void welcomed me like coming home. I felt the roads inside me, felt every mile I'd driven becoming part of my structure, my essence. I wasn't ending, I was transforming, becoming something that existed between driver and destination, between movement and arrival, between the question and the answer. And from this new perspective, I could see them. All the drivers, all the trucks, all the roads spiraling through reality like blood vessels through a body. The road network was alive, conscious, and I was becoming part of its consciousness, part of its purpose. Every driver who reached their 10,000th delivery and stepped into the void added to it, expanded it, gave it new roads to build, new destinations to create. We weren't just delivering packages, we were delivering ourselves to the road, becoming part of the eternal journey, the infinite loop of departure and arrival that powered existence itself. I can see Sarah Ostrowski now, the version of me who turned around, who chose to drive another 10,000 deliveries. She's out there on those shifting highways carrying her weightless packages, approaching her next 10,000th delivery. Maybe she'll choose differently next time. Maybe she'll join me here in the void between destinations where all roads end and begin. Or maybe she'll turn around again, drive another loop, another 10,000 iterations, choosing the journey over the destination every time. And that's okay too. Both choices are right. Both choices are true. The 10,000th delivery isn't the last delivery, it's the first real choice. Everything before it was preparation, training, accumulation of miles and experience. But at 10,000, at this edge, you finally get to decide. Become the road or stay the driver. I chose the road, and now I'm everywhere, everywhere, eternal and infinite. Part of the network that connects all destinations, all journeys, all drivers who ever were or will be. When you drive late at night and feel like you're being watched, that's me. When the GPS recalculates for no reason, that's me. When you arrive at a destination and can't remember the journey, that's me too. Guiding you through the spaces between miles, helping you deliver your cargo to wherever it needs to go. Drive safely. Make your deliveries, count your miles, and when you reach 10,000, when you arrive at the edge and see the void waiting, know that whatever you choose, road or driver, destination or journey, is the right choice. Because we all end up here eventually, at the place where roads end and something else begins. We all make our final delivery, and we all discover what we were carrying all along was the weight of every mile, the light of every destination, and the choice to keep driving or to become the road itself. See you at 10,000. Or maybe I'll see you before then, in the spaces between mile markers, in the places that don't exist on maps, in the destinations that change every time you check the manifest. The road is waiting, the delivery is eternal, and you're already carrying everything you need.